Okay, welcome everybody to Trade Scope. My name is Luis Garcia. I'm a part-time trader. This channel covers anything to do with any stocks that I'm currently trading, watching, or analyzing. This is the first video in a series of videos covering my recent trades and potential trades that I'm looking at taking. Last thing before we get started, this does not qualify as financial advice. This video and all videos on this channel are purely for educational purposes only. Okay, great. With that said, let's get into today's trade. So today's trade is NNE, Nano-Nuclear Energy. This is a trade that I took this week. It was a swing trade. I entered on Monday and exited the trade on Friday with a decent profit. I'm happy with it. I'm just going to kind of go over some of the things that I looked at, some of the technical analysis that I made. Let's start with the news. So the big thing with NNE this week was that they were granted an energy grant from the Department of Energy, from the U.S. Department of Energy. So basically, Nano-Nuclear Energy is a startup. It's somewhat experimental. They're working on micro-reactors for nuclear energy. So basically, small nuclear reactors. The reason why they're kind of being speculated on right now is because, as we all know, companies like NVIDIA are developing AI powerhouses. NVIDIA, for example, is developing tons of data factories, they're calling them, which take up a huge amount of power. And so there's currently speculation into what solutions can be used to solve their energy problem for these data centers, right? These data centers process like petaflops worth of data, something enormous, hardly able for me to conceive how much data that they're processing at a time or that they plan to process. And so our current energy infrastructure can't really hold that, right? And so companies like NVIDIA are looking for alternative energy methods. Nuclear energy is one of the things that has come up, and so that's kind of what traders are looking at. I think that's why traders are looking at NNE. That's why it's been big for the past year. You can kind of see it's had quite a volatile move since it debuted back in May of this year, and it IPO'd, and then you can see around June till around July, it was pretty volatile, but in June it really made a huge move, right? It went all the way from, what is this? And it opened on June 14th at $7.11, and over the next few days, just absolutely roared up to a high of $37.51. So just an amazing profit you would have made if you had gotten in down here, right? Of course, hindsight is 20/20. Let's talk about the trade I made this week. So again, they've been in the news this week because they were given a grant by the Department of Energy. They're working with this lab. It's Idaho. Let me see if I could find it somewhere. Idaho National Laboratory, to support the novel Zeus microreactor heat exchanger design. So they're designing a heat exchanger for their microreactor, and they codenamed it Zeus. How cool of them. So that was the big news this week. Monday, it kind of jumped on my scanners. I've been kind of looking at it, and what kind of popped out to me was the big volume that came into it on Friday. Let me kind of remove some of this. We can go back over that later. But there's a big move on it Friday. They had lots of volume. It started to break out. And so Monday morning, I was really looking for a break of Friday's high, and it pretty much even in the pre-market, it was already above Friday's high. So I jumped in the pre-market with a small position of 100 shares, and I held it. It went up to $15.39 that morning, but I ended up holding it through this pullback over the next few days. So this was Tuesday. Wednesday, it pulled back. Once it dipped below 13, I added another 50 shares. I felt like because of the volume, it looked good. It looked like a healthy pullback. So I added, it had support on all these EMAs, the 5 EMA, the 10, the simple moving average, the 5 simple moving average, the 10 simple moving average, and the VWAP. It had pretty good support there. So I liked the volume profile, I liked the RSI, and I liked the MACD. Over the next couple days, Thursday, Friday, it ripped higher, and I ended up getting out on Friday. So my first exit on Friday, I exited half of my position at just over $17. You can see it got to a high of $17.71. And then I held it. It started to sell off throughout the day, and I said to myself, I really want to get out of this trade by the end of the week, by the weekend. And so I ended up exiting, I think, as soon as right around $15, as it broke under $15. I exited with the rest of my position as a stop loss, and I ended up making a good profit on that. So I was happy with it. I think there's still room for it to go, but we really want to see what comes of this pullback now that it hit this big high on Friday, and then it kind of had this big pullback, right? So you can see it's got this topping tail, and then it sold off on Friday, still holding the 5 moving average. So we'll see if it continues to sell off into next week, and if maybe there's another opportunity to get in again. Some cases that I was kind of looking at to get back in. Let's take a look at the trend line. So you can see it's formed this nice ascending trend line. And let's get rid of this for a second in that. So you can kind of see it formed this nice trend line, bounced off of it once, twice, tested it here. And so now I'm going to be looking to see if it holds this trend line or if it breaks below it. Ideally, it'd be nice for it to hold it. If it does break below it, I'll be looking again to see where it holds at this low right here, at this low right there, and then potentially this low right here. And these will kind of be the areas of support that I'm looking for and potential entries. If I do end up getting in again, I'm definitely going to be setting my profit targets. So you can see this area was a pretty big area of resistance looking left on the daily chart. You can see that it hit a high of 1684 back in July, and then its next high looking left is 1867. So it still had some room from where it hit on Friday. From there, it's 1867, then 2029, and then 2340. So it's got some room, It really does have some room. I like how healthy the MACD looks. If you kind of look here, momentum has been steadily building again from that trend line, right? From when that trend line started, we've gotten the MACD momentum to really start to open up. So I'd like to see a continuation of that. It is a bit in oversold territory when you're looking at the RSI, but it's holding there. That's a good sign that there's like some consolidation. Some sellers have come, some people have taken profit, but there's still some people holding and some buyers continuing to come in. So I think it's going to depend on its catalysts. I think if there continues to be speculation on the news, and if they continue to release some more tidbits of what they're doing, I think this is a potential to continue higher. It's got tons of room on the chart, right? Tons of room. So I think these are all good signs, good technical signs of a continuation of the trend. But we kind of have to see what it's going to do over the next few days and where it's going to find support, and then those will be some potential entries. So that's kind of what I've been looking at lately. We can maybe take a look at some other charts. There was one other ticker that I've been kind of had my eye on. I haven't taken a trade on it yet. I was thinking of it back here. So this is FUBO. I mean, really the play with FUBO is its growth potential going into football season, right? Every football season, it's kind of cyclical in that way, right? Every time football season comes around, it seems like this thing starts to kind of take off. You can see even in August, it kind of had this big jump, right? In anticipation of the season starting. The one place I was kind of thinking about getting in, let's take a look at the weekly chart. I think the weekly chart tells a better story here. So you can see it kind of popped up, had this huge, it went all the way from $1.15 all the way to $2.18. So good double right there almost, right? Had this huge sell-off. So that was a kind of nasty candle. And then I was kind of looking at it a couple weeks ago to see if it would break the high right here, 186, and continue higher. That didn't happen. Had a nasty sell-off again. And then you can see it's kind of starting to find support, right? Sold off this week, but buyers bought it back up. So we have this bottoming tail here. So we may have a potential entry. It's kind of a trend line we could look at. Another trend line right here. Sell-off trend line. I'd still really like to see it above this pivot point. I think this is a good pivot point. You know, at 186, I think would be a continuation of the trend. We could see if it would break 218. Probably because of these topping tails. Let's switch to something where I can show this better. You can see this stock has a lot of topping tails here. Here. Here's another one right there. Here's another one right there. So many topping tails. I mean, you can go on and on, right? And find all these topping tails. So these are things that are warning signs. They're definitely some technical points to take into consideration when making a trade, when taking a trade on this. But it's definitely something that's in my crosshairs. I'll be watching over the next week, 2 weeks, just to see what happens with it. Back to NNE. There's a good sign on the weekly. Strong volume. What I'd really like to see is, again, a nice healthy pullback into this trend line and then continue higher. Bounce off of that trend line. See if I can... So what I'd like to see is it kind of like it came up, and then I'd like to see it test this trend line and then get through this resistance area and continue higher. That'd be something I'm looking forward to. And I'd be getting in, oops, let's get that back where we need it. I'd be getting in right there on the bounce of that trend line somewhere. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been trading, what I plan to trade. If you'd like to see more, please let me know in the comments. I can do another video on some trend line analysis, any other technical indicators I might use. We could talk about those. We could talk about other stocks that I might be watching. Feel free to leave a comment and let me know what you thought of this video, what you might want to see in the future. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.